We're here to ask you some questions about poetry out loud.
Sure.
All right,
Thank you for asking me.
please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is David Phanthai. I've been teaching here at Kennedy High School for 18 years. My role, besides being an English teacher, is to help direct and organize Poetry Out Loud. And I've been doing that now for 10 years. And my other job is IQC, which is Instructional Quality Commission for the State Board of Education. I've been involved in curriculum design and development. I've been involved with WASC, organizing stuff for the school. So this is right up my alley. And what motivated me to be in such a role, I have to say students, seeing students succeed and seeing students participate in such an outstanding program. The one thing that I always reflect back on is how was my education growing up. I wish there was a Poetry Out Loud program like this. I would have loved to see it.
So, what started this program? What is it about?
This program was started by the National Endowment for the Art. It started off something similar to the spelling bee, where students come memorize a word and they would compete. It's kind of the same idea, but in poetry form. So students would memorize a poem and recite it, and it's multiple. We only ask our students to memorize one, but up at the county and state and national level, they would have to memorize 2 and 3 poems. So it's exciting to see our students compete, especially when they make it to the state round. And the program really encourages students to get to know poets and spoken words and poetry. And it is competing at the classroom level, where each teacher selects their winner, and then they move on to our school competition. And let me tell you, our school competition is exceptional. We have a really good program. We even put together, the whole entire program with an MC, our judges, and sometimes we would have entertainers, and that was pre-COVID. But now that we're under this pandemic, a lot of things are changing. This year, we've decided to, because of the pandemic, we've decided to live stream it on Zoom. So we will not have a live audience because of COVID restrictions. We'll only have like the 30 students competing in the auditorium. Same layout in terms of the structure, with our MC and each student coming up to recite their poem, and then the judges giving their score. But the only difference is we won't all be in the auditorium like we did before. We used to have like 300 students all jammed up in the auditorium, which was really exciting because you got a live audience. For this year, because of the COVID restriction and everything, the best thing that we're going to do is live stream it on Zoom. Question. I would hope that students care about poetry. Poetry is art. Poetry speaks to us, especially during difficult times like the pandemic. And perhaps, not just studying literature and all of the other academic subject that we expect our students to learn, but poetry really speaks to the soul. It speaks to our heart. And in many ways, the songs that students listen to today are lyrics that are poetic. They contain a lot of poetic devices and elements, and connecting with that is important. And I would hope that in times of struggle, students can turn to poetry, and not just reciting and memorizing, but writing their own poems. And maybe Poetry Out Loud can be a catalyst for them to be involved in poetry in other areas of their lives.
How long has it been going on for, and what differences do you personally see from the start of poetry till now?
Yeah, there's been some slight changes in the history of Poetry Out Loud. I believe it started in 2006 by the National Endowment for the Art, and they've been some minor changes in terms of like the way that judges score. And so right now we're being asked to submit our student winner virtually on video. And so it's kind of apropos that we're doing a video production too of this, is that we have to record our student and then send them to the competition via video. So it's a digital format instead of live.
How can Poetry Out Loud affect the lives of people participating and those listening?
Another good question to ask. I guess it does affect our students beyond the classroom wall and beyond high school, because students will come back to me later, years later, and go, I remember that competition. It was a lot of fun. Or it has affected their lives in various ways. Some of them have gone to art, theater, writing and poetry. I had one student who said, oh, I memorized this poem that my college professor read, and she was able to recite the poem for the class. So it's gone above and beyond just here at Kennedy High School. I would hope that students are, inspired by Poetry Out Loud, and that they go and share poetry with everyone around.
How difficult has it been to manage Poetry Out Loud during the COVID-19 pandemic?
This one is quite interesting because we're still adapting to returning in person in the classroom. And so far it hasn't been too difficult, especially when I have the help of the English department. And so a lot of teachers are contributing in various ways. Not just running Poetry Out Loud in their classroom and helping students memorize their poems, but we have Google Docs and Google Classroom, where all of the teachers will have access to information that is shared, and that they're able to pick and choose information from our Google Docs that we share about Poetry Out Loud. And so this year, management hasn't been as difficult. It's just getting students excited about poetry again, because we've been outside of the classroom for so long, a year and a half to 2 years. We haven't run this program, so I'm hoping to renew that energy, which is going to be exciting this year. I'm hoping to include some more ideas, and maybe our John Ray, is that his name? Who does the morning announcement? Yeah. He's our MC, so I'd like to share that with you as well. And so we'll see how the performance goes, and hopefully those who are interested can get more information, and we'll be sharing that with your teachers.
That sounds amazing.
Yep.